Hello everybody, welcome back. We are in San Juan, Puerto Rico. Here today to look at the Phenom 100 recently released, and this one's pretty exciting. This is a great airplane. For those of you who are looking to step up from GA aircraft, anything from the C-172, G1000, the Bonanza, the Baron, anything like that, looking to step up to something faster, looking to get into a jet, but you're kind of nervous about doing it, or you want good practice jet, I guess is a one way of putting it. This is a phenomenal option. It's a very, very simple airplane to operate. It's been designed from the ground up to be a single pilot operated airplane, which you'll see when we get into the cockpit. But all the systems are very simple. Start procedure for a jet is as simple as humanly possible. Getting the systems up and running is very simple. It's all by design. This is sort of the competitor in the very light jet category to things like the Mustang 510, the Citation Mustang 510, and like the Honda Jet, things like that. The cool thing about this airplane, you can see here from the side, it's got 4 windows. It's got more windows than the other planes in its category. It's got that high T-tail, and the kind of the standard look, I guess you would call it, those high twin engines there on the back of the fuselage, just makes it look like a bigger airplane. It's got more ramp presence, as they say. I think it's gorgeous. It's also got, because of the way, sorry that whatchamacallit, FS Realistic is making it jump around like this, but because of the way the bottom of the fuselage is built, it's not rounded under like this. In the cabin, you've got this kind of bulge here at the bottom of the cabin, which gives you a lot more space inside. You can put your feet flat in the ground when you're sitting in there, which is fantastic. But it's just a beautiful airplane. It's an excellent performer. It's a good, I don't know, at least 60 to 70 knots faster than the Citation Mustang. It's a great airplane. So let's get into the cockpit here. You can see, first of all, this ram horn yoke that Phenom is known for. But you can see the way everything is set up. There's your oxygen, your electrics, your fuel, the heating and ice protection, pressurization, air conditioning, all the engine settings and knobs right there. The autopilot, you've got the backup display here up on the top as well by the autopilot, and the lights right there. So you can see everything is within reach of the pilot. It's designed to be a very, very simple airplane to fly. If we look back here into the cabin, like I said, because of the way the cabin is built, you can put your feet flat in the ground. A lot of planes in this category, you kind of angling your feet this way because it's just a little tight inside. It's got these big, beautiful windows. Really nice view out the windows here, as you can see. Nice, decent headroom, but it's got a really nice cabin. Very, very comfortable. Another thing that distinguishes it in this category of plane is this air door here, the air stairs. Most of the aircraft in this category have that half flip up, half flip down door that's got like 2 or 3 stairs to get to get down to the ramp. This has got a full air stair, which really makes it feel a lot bigger. And the other thing, we can look here, it also has an enclosed lav, which is nice. You even got your window back here if you got to use the bathroom. So startup is simple. Well, before we do that, let's take a quick look at the checklist here. The cool thing about the checklist in this airplane, like I said, it's been designed to be a single pilot aircraft. Most aircraft of this category have, 2 or 3 pages front and back for the checklist. This one, this is it. You just got one side of a laminated piece of paper. On the back, you've got some some items to remember and your landing data, speeds and weights, and so on and so forth. But as far as actually flying, or actually going through the checklist to fly the airplane, this is it. I kind of like this checklist the way they've done it. I can use it pretty well with the head tracker. I don't think it works very well for people that are using the traditional arrow keys to move around the cabin, or the hat button to move around the cabin. It's not quite as easy with that. So we're gonna get us up and going here. First thing, we're gonna put the batteries on, and the first thing you're gonna notice when I do that is that the avionics come on. And again, this is all to make it an easier airplane to fly. There is no separate avionics master switch. You hit the batteries and you've got yourself your avionics all on. Ground power unit. So typically in an airplane of this category, you're not really going to use a ground power unit because they are expensive. They're about $500 a pop to use. So if you're on a couple day trip with this airplane using GPUs everywhere, it's going to cost you some money. And the whole point of an airplane like this, in a lot of ways, is efficiency, being able to get jet performance for less. And so what they typically do is they'll generally turn on the batteries, get the airplane set up pretty quickly, and get going. Get an engine on so that they don't have to use a GPU. If you can't get it up and running in 15 to 20 minutes, you're gonna drain the batteries. So the easy way to do it, just turn on the batteries and then hit the GPU in the sim. That's going to work for us just fine. I do have the flight plan already set in. I was pretty surprised actually that I was able to do this. One of the really annoying things in Microsoft Flight Simulator is anytime you put together a flight plan for an aircraft that you can't load the flight plan directly from SimBrief into the aircraft, like this one, so far as I know anyway, you go into the Microsoft map planning page, you load the flight, it loads you on the runway, and as soon as you select the parking place, it automatically screws up the entire flight plan. It's been like that for 3 years. It's really tiring. But what are you going to do? But I did manage to get an entire flight of, what is this, 100 miles set up without having to mess around too much. I'm not a big fan of the G1000. The G1000 is tedious in the sim because of the push button aspect of it. The touch screen of the G3000, G5000 is a whole lot easier to use. This is nice in that it's got the keypad that you can use to to help set up your flight plan and make modifications and so on. Nonetheless, I prefer to set it up in the map page in Microsoft Flight Simulator and not have to mess with it in this airplane. So we will get ourselves going here. Let's see. We'll go fuel pumps to auto. We're going to go passenger lights to PED, personal electronic devices, and so on. Hydraulic pump to auto. I'm using the checklist on my iPad in front of me just because, like I said, it's kind of a pain to get it going. Engine start, stop. It's kind of a pain to look around the cabin with that right in front of you. So engine ignition to auto. Let's see here. Thrust levers to idle, and they are. There are no indents for the thrust levers, by the way. These are just markings that you match the lines on the throttle. So there's no indents, which is kind of cumbersome because you have to look down and make sure you've got it set in there properly. Circuit breakers, all good. I don't know if they work. They don't. It's all right. That's another thing that shows you how well designed this plane is for single pilot ops, is that the circuit breakers are right there. So we're gonna go. Let's see, GPU as required, batteries on, navigation, circuit breakers, navigation databases, current, oxygen, good. Let's come over here. Alright, alright, let's see here. Test panel. Annunciators are good. See there. Oh no, that's the parking brake, sorry. Okay.
Stall.
Alright, our annunciators are all working just fine. Altimeters, I'm going to set these the old-fashioned way, just hit the B button. Flight plan is good, takeoff, and so all of the engine parameters, the systems take the outside air temperature and your altitude, and it makes all of the calculations for you. You don't have to set up, what the N1 setting is going to be, and et cetera, et cetera. It's all done for you by the FADEC, the fully automatic digital engine controls. So it's, again, very, very simple to fly. So you've got, for example, it's got all the VREFs all set, or the V speeds all set rather. Weights are all good. Takeoff speeds checked. Flight director, dun dun dun. Okay, so we're gonna go and turn on the flight director. I'm gonna set an initial altitude of 10,000 feet. It's one thing that takes a while in this airplane is setting the altitudes. Let's take a look at the Hamar 2 departure here, and let's see, runway heading is 078 rather. So set that. I know it's already set in the GPS, but I like backups for my backups. 078. Okay, so now we can start our engines. Leads on both. Alright. Engine ignitions are on auto. So I'll show you how easy it is to start. The pumps are on. This button is rigged backwards. You have to click down to get it to move up to armed. So hydraulics on auto, fuel pumps are on, engine ignitions on auto. Start the number 2 engine first, and you just flip that over to start. And we watch the engine do its magic. I did want to turn the generators to auto. That's something I did forget. And you can see that from your annunciators right there. What is this upset about now? Okay. Engine 1 is stabilized. Let's start engine 2 is stabilized. Let's start engine 1. I know what it's upset about. Bus tie. to auto. There we go. There we go. So that was a poor demonstration of starting the airplane. Make sure the bus tie is on auto. Batteries on, obviously. Electricals on auto. Fuel pumps on auto. Hydraulic pump on auto. Engine ignition's on auto, and then you're good to start. So we've got stable engines both sides. I am going to engage the brakes. I'm going to disconnect the GPU, and we're ready to go. So parking brake is right here. Like I said, everything is very, very simple for the pilot to reach. So we're good to go. I'm going to advance the throttles here a little bit. I am not on VATSIM today. You can see, I guess that's the DX12 bleed through there, which doesn't really bother me. I prefer it wasn't there, but I'll get over it. One thing about this plane, it does not have a custom sound set. This is a smaller developer, and they are not, just weren't in the position to be able to do that, which is fine. It's understandable. It doesn't bother me. People get into some really fine details in terms of what they like about an airplane and what they'll criticize. I don't. I just enjoy flying. I mean, you know, there are some, you know, game-breaking you know, issues you can run into, but most of the things that I see people upset about don't really bother me. What would bother me is forgetting to turn my nav lights on and my taxi lights on, because that would be poor piloting. I might actually put together my own checklist. This checklist is okay. But it's got before start, after start. But it doesn't really walk you through the actual start itself. So trims are green. You know, ground handling is what it is in Microsoft Flight Simulator, right? Just the way it is. S turns down to the holding point here. I turned off the frame gen mod for this flight because it was being a little bit jittery, and I think with the Dynamic LOD mod, I don't know that frame gen is necessarily required anymore, at least for me. So I got my flaps set and indicating. I'm gonna come down here. I always like to use as much runway as I possibly can. So I would probably modify this for, you know, to get my own checklist. So I'm gonna hold short here, and so we're looking pretty good here. We've got a nice outside view there set up. All right, flaps are set, trims are all in the green. Autopilot is set up to go. Flight director is on. We're going to be making a right turn once we get above 520 feet. And actually, what I do want to do is set this to about 120 knots. Actually, check that. I'm gonna set this to 150 knots because I'm gonna hand fly this as we get off the ground. One of the cool things about this plane too is it handles very, very nicely. Handles very nicely to hand fly. So we've got 10,000 set, flight level change mode, and we'll go once we're off the ground, yaw dampener, and heading mode. All right, and we're gonna transponder squawk altitude. We're gonna go 6, 5, 6, 3, and we'll go transponder squawk altitude, and we should be good to go. 99 is rotation speed. So let's get moving here. This is normally where I'd be talking to my fellow VATSIM pilots, but that's not happening today, so that's all right. And of course, once you get on the runway, we want our landing light. No, come on. Landing light on, strobe lights on. Checking the final approach course. It looks clear to me. I don't usually get this bleed through. I don't know why this is happening today. This must be the DX12 stuff that I hear people talking about a lot that I usually don't see. So we are on centerline heading indicator, checks with the runway number. And now here's where you got to look down to set toga power, which is a bit tedious. Especially because you can't look down and look up at the same time. Alright, takeoff power is set. I'm not happy to be off centerline. But that's the way it is sometimes. There's rotation speed. And that's it, kids. We're airborne. And gear is coming up. And it's just so easy to hand fly, I can't even tell you. And we will go autopilot engaged. And there's autopilot, yaw dampener, flight level change. And we are in heading mode. 078. And like I said, it's just super simple to fly. And we're climbing like crazy. So let's bring the power back to continuous climb. Up the speed here to 180. Not a whole lot of documentation with this airplane. And we'll select up to, say, 23,000. Much higher than that. Climb rate of 2,000 feet per minute, which is really pretty nice. Now what I want to do is proceed direct. And we're going to nav mode here. got GPS mode, nav mode, autopilot, yaw damper, flight level change. And let's have a look from the not cheap seats. I mean, this looks fantastic. This is really, really cool. Tell you what, not too bad. This is something I needed to turn on, at least set on auto. So let me check everything here. Everything looking good there. Fuel pumps are on auto. Passenger signs. Go. Seat belts. The ELT, emergency locator transponder, or emergency location transmitter. What that does, it's automatic. If there's an accident, it broadcasts your position, so you can be found. Fuel pumps on auto, hydraulics on auto, windshield wipers or windshield heat off, engine ice protection not required. Let's go over here. I don't know if this is on. Whatever that. That needs to be an auto. Make sure your pressurization is on auto. Yeah, I think we're looking pretty good. There is a takeoff configuration check button in this. I don't think it works. As a matter of fact, I'm sure it doesn't work. So that would be kind of nice to actually have. And that is one of the most annoying features of FS Realistic, is having your co-pilot sneeze on you as you're flying. It's really irritating. I don't know why they are of the opinion that anybody would like that feature. So, I mean, like, you know, as you can see, it's not the most challenging airplane in the world to fly. Says the guy who left his flaps up going 180 knots. Yeah, this is why you check things. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's a piss poor performance right there. This is why God created checklists, by the way. Just looking here, you can see after takeoff, landing gear check up, flaps 0, thrust levers continuous climb, yaw damper on, pressurization check, climb transition altitude, altimeters, signs outlet, lights set, windshield heating on. Alright, so again, there's a reason why God created checklists. And we're above 10,000 feet, so we can turn our landing lights off. And we can now transition to a bit more of a cruise climb with 200 knots. I hope I didn't almost rip the flaps off this thing. Flap extend speed 200, good, I didn't. Poor. Actually, I did. Flaps 2 is what I had. 160 knots is the limit. So, not real good there. I'm still climbing at 2,200 feet per minute. see Vieques over there. I should have set a camera view from the throne back there, but I didn't. So, yeah, this would be a nice place to hang out. That'd be a nice place to hang out. So we can already start thinking about top of descent. Top of descent, I'm going to want to be out here. They've introduced FAA sectionals to me about 14 times by now. Every time I open this, it gives me that same indication. So, we're going to be flying the approach here from Juice. Let's see what that transition looks like. 22 miles from Juice to Avaki. Avaki's a 10-mile final, so 2600 at Avaki is, or 2600, yeah, 2600 at Avaki is what I really want. But I might take 2600 at Juice just because I'm not familiar with this airplane. So we're going to be at 23,000 feet, going down to 2600. That's a difference of give or take 20,000. Knock 3 zeros off. It's 20. Multiply that times 3 is 60. So about 60 miles from Juice is where we want to start our descent. And in this airplane, you descend at about a descent rate of about 50% of your ground speed. And what I mean by that is we'll be cruising probably 350 knots ground speed, somewhere about there, which we'll see here once we're at altitude. So let's say we're at 360 knots, just to give it a round number. Add another 0, that's 3,600. Divide that in half, that's 1,800. So you want about an 1,800 foot per minute descent rate. And again, the way you calculate your top of descent point, so we're going from 23,000 feet to 2,600. That's roughly 20,000 feet that we want to lose. Knock off the final 3 zeros, that's 20. Multiply that by 3, and that's 60. So we want about 60 miles from Avaki is where we want to begin our descent. So we will see that we'll see the distance to Avaki once we get to Nail here. Getting a nice view right now. There's Culebra and Vieques. Culebra in the foreground, Vieques in the background. And we're coming up now on St. Thomas. We're going to be going right along the U.S. Virgin Islands and the British Virgin Islands. So it should be nice. There's 20,000. And this climb rate is pretty impressive. And we're making our right-hand turn here. Alright, 96.7 miles to Juice. Right there. So, we're not going to be in cruise for very long. 4,000 to go. Alert here. There you have it. We did not set our altimeters, did we? .013. There we have it. Now what we're going to do is bring the throttles back to max cruise. Pounds per hour of fuel flow right there, about 440 pounds per hour. There's 6 pounds in a gallon of avgas. So 75 gallons an hour per side. So, yeah, 150 gallons an hour at down here. It's probably it's probably 7 gallons an hour, or $7 a gallon down here. So you're looking at $1,000 an hour just in fuel. Thomas down here. St. Thomas Airport. Cyril E. King, I do believe it is airport. That's one of the, that might be a tougher approach in landing in St. Maarten in terms of a visual approach. So 342 knots of ground speed. So when we hit 60 knots or 60 nautical miles from Juice, we're going to descend at start a descent about 1,700 feet a minute. That should get us. Oh, it's already calculated it. Look at that. By the way, this is another thing you can get in here is your charts. Your Navigraph charts. And the cool thing is it loads the charts that you're using. So if you've got the RNAV 10 approach loaded, which I have in the flight plan, it'll load that. You see down here, you've got the info. That's your, your basic airport layout and parking. And then just click on approach and it'll give you the approach you've got loaded. And the weather is right here. You got your METAR and it's decoded as well, which is nice. So let's see, altimeter 1018. Write that down. Wind 06014. So it's gonna be a little bit of a crosswind landing, which is fine. This is interesting. Hold on for 1 second. Approach. Chart options. No way, look at this. So this is pretty cool. Watch this. So when you've got So from here, from this main page, you hit your charts, and then it's going to give you the chart that you for the approach you've got loaded. If you want to see the header, which is up here, this is the briefing strip. If you want to see that, you click there instead of having to zoom in, and now it's going to show you that briefing strip close up. We can look at the plan. See, and look how much bigger it is. That's fantastic. Look at that. So there's the plan view. Here's your profile with your speeds and visual aids and your mist and your minimum section. That is fantastic. How cool is that? That is really, really cool. I like that a lot. I didn't notice that before. All right. And I think that I just go past the what am I doing? I gotta drop this now down. I don't mind being a little bit late on top of the descent, only because we've got 22 miles from Juice to Avaki. I don't want to be too far, so like we said, about 1,700 feet, and we really want to bring now the power back. To stop, what you want to do is stop that trend indication right there, that little maroon trend indication. Just pull your power back until that disappears. You want to maintain about what you were doing. That's the only way your calculations are going to add up. So, continue. That vertical speed to 1800, and bring that altitude select down to 2600. Okay. I want to bring power back a little bit further. So, and you see that, you got your bottom of descent indication there at Juice. Which is fine. We'll get down there, make ourselves comfortable. And be a pretty easy ride. Now, I was talking before about this being a good transition airplane, and the reason is because it doesn't operate super fast. Let's go back to our chart. Chart options. Kind of wish they would move this section and just give you the whole chart, but so we'll look at it real quick. So final approach course 096, glide slope intercept is lesser at 1700 feet. LNAV decision altitude 700 feet. Missed approach climbing right turn to 4000 direct on bed. See here we're going from Juice, we'll have 22 miles to Avaki, and here we go. Profile view of Avaki 2600 down to 1700 at Lesor. minimum 700 feet is a constant descent final approach, which is a way of, so this is a non-precision approach, which means there is no vertical guidance, but with the with a constant descent final approach, the your system, your flight computers, will calculate a final approach glide path angle. It's not really a glide slope. Glide path for the descent. I'm just going to bring in a little bit of power here because I don't want to start getting real slow. 310 knots right now. And you can see as I'm adding power, that bottom of descent is moving. Well, that was the one thing I wanted to check on that chart is transition altitude, transition level, flight level 065. Let's go to chart options. Header, transition level, flight level 065. Transition level is for landing, 6,500 feet. Transition altitude is for departing, 5,000 feet. Why you would want a different transition level for arriving and departing aircraft, I have no idea, but that's what they do. I mean, so far this handles beautifully. It handles exactly like you'd expect it to. Actually handles nicer than I would expect it to. It's really very, very smooth on the controls. And again, if you're transitioning from something like the anything with a G1000, you're going to be right at home, It's not going to be a difficult transition for you. Start to see Juliana out there. Well, St. Maarten out there in the distance. I can already tell you this is a if you're into this type of airplane, this is a no-brainer of a purchase. It really is. Especially if you want to get a handle on flying jets, if you want to learn how to fly jets and get comfortable with it. The citation, I find that the stock citation for Microsoft Flight Simulator is fantastic. Very, very nice airplane. The problem you're going to have with it is that the FMC is pretty advanced. It's largely the same type of FMC you're going to see in something like the Boeing 737. It's really that same kind of Collins FMC. And I'm up on 10,000 feet. I'm just trying to get my airspeed trending in the opposite direction here. Looking to get that trend arrow. There we go. Go landing lights on. We want your landing lights on under 10,000 feet. Passengers, turn off your personal electronic devices, please. So, starting to get myself into my groove here for the approach. Not worried about the speed. Once we level off, speed will bleed off very quickly. We got 22 miles to do it. I'm just gonna, I don't know whether I need to activate the approach in the G1000 first and then hit approach mode, or if I can simply hit approach mode. I'm gonna hit approach mode and just see what happens. I love the fact that the buttons are worn. There's that worn look around the buttons. I think that looks pretty cool. So 6,500 feet. We're gonna go. What did I say? 1018. So there is our transition altitude done. And yeah, we'll see how the speed works out here. So again, you kind of feel like you're sitting here wondering what you should be doing, but the reality is there's not a lot to do. Come down here, descent, windshield heating on, icing we're good, landing speeds are good, temperatures are set, signs, lights, fuel transfer. Yeah. So that button doesn't work. Alright, well, that's fine. Alright, 22 miles to Avaki. Where's my beloved Anguilla? Right there. Really no need to be at 2600 this far out, but it is what it is. Bring in some power just because I don't want to be sitting here all day long waiting to get to Avaki. Alright, we are at 2,600 feet. And as we level off, that airspeed's going to drop, so we bring in some power. It's pretty responsive. Which makes me think it's going to be pretty easy to slow down. Such a weird feeling for me not to be making radio calls. So in retrospect, I would have started my top of descent a bit later and intercepted a little closer to Avaki, but that's no big deal. You're burning a ton of fuel doing this. Burning a ton of fuel doing this. Really what you want to do in a jet is pretty much descend at relatively close to idle power. Just trade the altitude that you've got. Use that energy to get yourself down. Alright, we're 10 miles from the back. I am now going to start bringing some power out. Start slowing down. The airplane's going to start pitching up to maintain altitude. We are inside 10 miles from Ibaki. I want to hit approach mode. Glide path is in the backup. As you can see, there is Aquila. Under 200 knots, we can go first notch of flaps. Now we're really going to pull the power back, but I do want to slow down. That's pretty impressive actually too, how well this airplane slows down. Given that it is a jet, jets aren't known for slowing down real well. It's not what they're built to do. Alright, 160 checks for flaps 2. We'll go flaps 2. Very shortly here, we're going to dial it down to 170. Or 1700, excuse me. I'm going to bring in some power now. I don't want to lose too much more altitude. We're going to go flaps 3. Got 120 knots I'm pretty happy with. Miles from Ibaki.
Landing here. Landing here. Landing
Alright.
here.
It wants landing gear down. We'll go down on the landing gear. Now we're going to bring in some power here because I don't want to get too slow. See, it's... Again, you're fighting that trend line right there. That one. Now we want to bring that down to 1700. Come on. Alright. We are 1 mile from Ibaki. Cross Ibaki, we'll start that descent. It's going to help our speed a little bit. And we're coming in underneath the glide slope. You can see that that's now alive. And bring out a little bit of power. See the diamond coming down and the G1000 intercept. We do have to disconnect before Maypond, the missed approach point. Just bring in some power so we don't drop any more airspeed. Once we're about half a dot above, I'm talking right here, once we're about half a dot above, right there, then we'll bring in those that final notch of flaps. Alright, everything's away, my airplane. Very, very responsive. The airplane, really, really responsive. It's nice. I've got a little bit of a right crosswind here. Getting a little bit underneath the glide slope, so we'll just arrest that descent a little bit here. No. Alright. Flaps are full. Gear down 3 green. You're on glide slope. Airspeed isn't bad. The wind says it's coming straight at us, but it feels like it's off to the right to me. Ground speed is about 90 knots, so we're looking about 400 to 450 feet a minute is what we want for this glide slope. This is perfect. I mean, it's like landing a Cherokee. I mean, it really is. Not difficult at all. As a matter of fact, if you watched my instrument approaches video, talked about one of the things that's kind of challenging is flying long straight in approaches like this, because you've got to maintain those needles for such a long period of time. Little bit of power here. Really is a nice little crosswind here. And I honestly can't believe I'm flying a jet. It feels this is like got a 20 knot headwind. A little bit high in the pappies here. And we just got what you often get, which is a little bit of a wind shift at 1,000 feet. Very, very common to get a little bit of a wind shift at 1,000 feet. Now it's a little bit of a left crosswind. Alright. Start bringing some power out. It is a windy day. It is a windy day. A little bit of power in here. Not the prettiest landing I've ever seen. Wasn't quite sure where the wasn't quite sure where the ground was on that one, which was probably obvious. But that was my first landing in this airplane, so I'm not gonna beat myself up over it. And bring that left throttle up. Spin us around. Yeah, I mean, like I said, that was not the prettiest landing you're ever going to see, but I can tell you this airplane is super simple to fly. Super simple to fly. I mean, to hand fly the what I was really looking for was the reaction to the airplane of particularly of my power inputs, because that it needs to be responsive, but I don't want it to be overly excitable. And I tell you what, this airplane just, I mean, spectacular hand flying. Really, really nice. And we'll bring it around here and we'll park. Park it nose in here. So I was really, really pleased with how it handled throughout. I mean, just a very, very comfortable, easy to fly airplane. I mean, I tell you, it feels very, very similar to the TBM on final, but it's got a whole lot more get up and go than the TBM. All right, we'll come there. Parking brake on. Engine stop there. Ground power. Turn the fuel pumps off. Yeah, do that. And we'll come over here. I will just leave everything on for right now. So the engines are off. Parking brake is on. ignition switches to off. So, like I said, I mean, very, very simple airplane to fly. Very comfortable airplane. This is a keeper. This is really a keeper. The Phenom is a cool airplane to begin with. This handles extraordinarily well. The systems are simple. Really, really good performer. Handles well throughout the flight envelope. I would give anybody who's thinking about buying this airplane an absolute thumbs up. Very, very cool airplane. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please let me know what you think in the comments, and we will see you soon.